Ooh, wasabi gangsters. We're doing a little something different this week. All right, we're going to just have a little conversation quickly about my top 5 reads of 2025 so far here in August. Now, I have an honorable mention in that Assassin's Quest I finished at the end of 2024. I really thought that I caught it in the early 2025 mark, but I literally finished it, I think, Christmas Eve. And that one is, it would chart here for sure. Let's just say that. I also want to honorably mention my own book because what? I wrote a book. It's my debut. Oh, Mercy Tears of the Fallen. That's it right there. It's a beautiful naked hardback on this puppy. Just plugging that real quick. I read it a lot this year, actually. And yeah, I mean, it's worth mentioning because I put it out there. And right now we're doing great. We just hit 1,000 sales at just around the 2-week mark. So there's 1,000 copies that have been out there in the world, and it's awesome that people have had such a good response so far. We're at a 4.6 or something over on Amazon with reviews, and we just hit 90 some odd good ratings. It's a dandy old time, and I'm super grateful for the response that it's had so far. But while you're here, let's get into my top 5 reads of 2025, which is the year that it is currently right now, because I'm not from the future. That'd be crazy if I was. I'm not. We're gonna start with Will of the Many. That is my number 5. And yeah, you know what? I'm ranking these just based on experience that I had with these books. And honestly, yeah, Will of the Many, number 5 here for me. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I just had a conversation with Philip Chase, John from Talking Story, and Jake from Nerd Level Rising over on the Nerd Level Rising channel about this, filled with spoilers, and it was a great conversation. It really put in perspective this story for me. I don't have a ton of, and I mentioned this in that conversation, I don't have a ton of like magic school type reads behind me, but this one, it was done so well. I love the character of Vis, and I love the people around him. I love the tropes that we get. It's very satisfying in terms of where it was all going, and putting the pieces together obviously came a little easier, but then the ending of this book just blew me out of the water. So that is my number 5 read. I'm actually going to go pretty quickly through these guys just because I love talking about them. Prophet of Adan. This is book number 2 in the Edan Trilogy by Philip Chase himself that I actually just mentioned. Actually, there's another person on this list that I also just mentioned. But yeah, Prophet of Adan was a fantastic read, a fantastic follow-up to The Way of Adan, and I cannot wait to get into the Return to Adan to finish this trilogy. And Philip actually just came out with a sequel to this trilogy called While Darkness Gathers, and I am thoroughly interested to see what characters sort of stick around. I have no idea yet, really. But the characters that we get in this book and their arcs based on where we were and where we found them in book 1, the concepts that are introduced, the world, I'll say shattering, but that's probably not the right term. Just the way that this story goes and where we kind of see our characters morph from where they were in the start of this book, let alone the start of the series. It has been one of the most exhilarating rides I've been on in terms of modern epic fantasy, and Prophet of Adan is definitely on my top 5 reads of the year so far. Now we get to Discovery by JAJ Minton. Now, John is one of the trio of Amy and Jacob Minton, the Minton family, over at Talking Story, and they wrote this wonderful book. And I picked it up. I was going to pick it up no matter what. But I picked it up not expecting. I didn't expect that I wasn't going to want to put it down, and that was exactly my experience with this. I didn't have really a lot of cosmic horror experience before this, with the there's some books inside of series, and then you include Book of the New Sun. There's some sort of cosmic horror aspects introduced in those books, but ultimately something of this nature I haven't really dove into. Maybe The Stand by Stephen King is something I often find myself comparing it to when I read the Discovery in terms of my experience with stories like this and horror and XYZ. This was just a fantastically written story. All of the characters are so well realized on the page, and it was just a wonderful ride from start to finish. Exhilarating. Again, page turner. I didn't want to put this thing down. It absolutely hooked me. So that's Discovery by JAJ Minton. That was my number 3 read of the year so far. Now this should be a no shocker to anybody who knows me, who knows the channel, knows books that I like, that I really enjoy the series in terms of series. The Bonehunters by Steven Erikson. I was going to put Midnight Tides here, but I'm not 100% sure I read it at the start of this year. I think I finished it at the end of last year. Bonehunters, on the other hand, I am for certain that I read in 2025. And, oh man, if you're asking, yes, I do put Midnight Tides over this. Oh man, that's actually, this is one of those series that is just so hard for me to pick my favorite. Man, Bonehunters. This is a book 6, so I don't want to get too much into spoilers here. But we get reintroduced to characters that for books 4 and 5 we were kind of separated from. And we see sort of things happen. We're starting to get a better idea, get our feet on the ground. And I know it's a book 6. Midnight Tides, I think, really settles that in for us. That said, book 6 adds a lot more depth and context to everything that is already so deep and already has so much context, or at least what we think we know. And I'm just thoroughly enjoying this series. I don't want to say too much. It is a book 6. I'm currently reading Reaper's Gale right now, and I'm loving my journey through this. If anybody knows, my book was inspired by, or there's like some inspiration from Malazan inside of my series, Mercy, and Elden Ring, which I actually think has some inspiration from Malazan. I know George R. R. Martin worked on Elden Ring, but I actually do think Malazan had some sort of touch in there. It had to have. And thoroughly am enjoying my Malazan journey so far. And now we get to a book 6 in a series with Disquite Gods by Christopher Ruocchio. Now, Shadows Upon Time comes out in November. I know we're all excited. I'm excited. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there at the release with Mr. Christopher Ruocchio himself. And Disquite Gods. Although Malazan, I think, is a higher rated series for me currently. Just my experience with Disquite Gods and having been separated from Ashes of Man for quite a little bit before picking this up. I think I read Ashes of Man around when Disquite Gods came out, and then I read Disquite Gods, I think, back in either February or March. And I just thoroughly enjoyed this read. There's a chapter in here. I mean, people who have read this know the chapter, and it blew me out of the water. And that's the second, or honestly, he's done it so much to me in this series that this series is just, it is, we are witnessing a modern classic. I know it's whatever. I don't care. We're witnessing something be created in our time that is absolutely amazing. And it's by someone who's not, I don't even think he's 35 years old, which I mean is whatever. It doesn't matter. This is an amazing series. Disquiet Gods, the Hadrian Marlowe we know and everything that we've been introduced to so far, he's always challenged, and his worldview and the dynamic aspect of his worldview and how much changes from the start of book 1 to where we are at the end of book 6 and where we're going. I have Tales of Sun Eater on my TBR. Hopefully going to read that this month, but the volume 4. But this was an absolutely amazing ride. But that was it, guys. I'm gonna stop blabbering. I'm gonna put these, no edits. We're just gonna throw these puppies right here. These were my top 5 reads of 2025 so far. And thank you guys so much for coming. Glad you did. I'm glad you came and hung out. I have a newsletter on my website. You guys can go sign up there. That link will be in the description. I got a short story there, Blood Rebellion short story you guys can check out. I always do my writing updates on Patreon. There's no writing update this week for this video. I usually would have thrown it in even for a top 5 or top 10 video or whatever. But right now we're sort of holding steady, waiting for book 2 to get back from my feedback readers. And we're going to put that into edits and revisions here in August. So thank you guys so much for coming, tuning in, hanging out, having a good time. I will see you next week because I'm on a trip right now while this is up and you guys are watching it. See you guys later.